with itchy lace monsters and Milano scams, Neko Mimi Mado Kawaii Desu Lolita Nya, and you found yourself in the world of ITA staples.
Blog, which is still a fantastic resource despite a lot of it being written 4, 5, 6 years ago now.
It has a lot more ITAs than the normal com.
Hello everybody, my name is Carol, and today we're going to talk about a topic that I have been requested to do many times, and that is, what is an ITA? Where the fuck did it come from, and how can I avoid being one? Grab yourself a cup of coffee or drink, cacao, snack, whatever you like, and let's get into it. And also you're gonna see me change my outfit at least once, because I'm recording this in 2 parts. Let's go. Lolita fashion has been around since around 1970. Now, it is a little bit debated when it actually rose to popularity, because Lolita fashion started out as something called otomiki, or it was heavily inspired by it. Because when you look at early examples of Lolita fashion, it really doesn't look like the way it looks today. It is very minimal, it is very classic inspired, it's not as out there and loud as it is today. Very quickly picked up in other parts of the world as well, such as, the Western community, which is actually the one that kind of contributed this more toxic ITA poser culture that we're gonna get into in just a second. Now, we don't actually use the term poser as much, it is more so the term ITA. And I'm gonna explain this here, just so there's no confusion. ITA technically stands for somebody's poorly executed outfit, or something that just doesn't fit the guidelines / the rules. Basically also sometimes referred to as beginners. I have seen it, and many other people have seen it increasingly being used as an insult, basically telling people you are a poser, you're not doing this correctly, you're not a real Lolita. Now, the word comes from a Japanese word called ITA. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that wrong, I'm so sorry. Which basically means painful or cringe-worthy, if that makes sense. I think that kind of gives you a vague idea of what this term refers to, and also what it is sometimes used for. Some of these rules that can make somebody an ITA is basically ranging from very, maybe even okay, to extremely over the top, what the fuck are we even doing? I'm jumping back in, sorry, you're gonna see my outfit switch from time to time. Now, I want to make sure that you guys understand that these rules do not fully apply anymore. Now, we have more guidelines instead of full-on set rules that are meant to be followed in order for the fashion to be recognized as Lolita fashion, which I think makes sense. There were many, such as definitely wear a petticoat, which I guess that's normal, but then there were also rules such as don't show your shoulders, always wear a blouse under a JSK, doesn't matter the weather. Definitely always cover your knees, because those are too inappropriate to be shown. It's like always wear a headpiece, wear wrist cuffs, Definitely wear tea party shoes, don't have those sneakers, I see it. Heavy makeup was a big no-no. Colorful hair colors was also a big no-no at the beginning. That there's an important distinction between the Western and the Japanese community, especially in the early 2000s and 2010s. Now, while I don't know and I can't speak on the Japanese community, but from what I've seen and heard online, the Western community has definitely taken these rules way too far, whereas the Japanese haven't really cared that much about the rules that are established, and they kind of are more, I guess, loose as far as I've seen. Again, I could be wrong, please educate me, but I'm only, talking about the Western community because that's where I have been a part of. All of these rules, there's a lot. There's an entire blog article from 2009 that goes into heavy detail, and some of it I understand and definitely agree on, others are a little bit more questionable for sure. To bring all of these rules and guidelines and weird words into perspective, we have to understand what was going on in the early 2000s and 2010s. Because the community and J fashion in general wasn't as widely spread as it is today. Now, some people have more of an understanding. They kind of know what cosplay is. They kind of know what kawaii culture is. We kind of have an understanding whether you're in the communities or not. The general consensus is more chill about that kind of stuff. Back in the day, Lolita fashion wasn't as accessible as it is today. You had to really put an effort and a lot of research to fully understand how you can get stuff overseas, especially in the early 2000s. The the internet wasn't as advanced, and unless you were able to, go to Japan once a year, it was a little tough to get your own items to, Germany or Italy or wherever you were from. It was hard. A big struggle that these Lolitas, and unfortunately we still face today, is sexualization of our fashion style. A lot of people, especially adults, tend to associate it with the book or the movie. It looks like little girl fashion. They thought it was some weird fetish or perhaps any kind of weird role-playing thing. So I believe that these roles were put in place to really distinguish themselves as something to be taken seriously, something that has, guidelines, that is something official, that is something not to be messed with, that there's some rules that keep the fashion safe. It was rough back in the day. Now, I'm not talking about every single community. I'm not talking about every single Lolita from that time. No, don't get me wrong. But I'm saying a majority of people have had these experiences, and if you're not one of them, you can consider yourself lucky. In the past, there used to be sites such as LiveJournal or RuffleChat where people would ridicule others. Like, it was not a purely online behavior thing. However, they did feel quite comfortable doing it online, and they always would disguise it as just giving concrete. A general rule of thumb was if you were not white, cis, conventionally attractive, and a skinny girl that were only angelic pretty, then chances are you were made fun of or kind of criticized in a "I'm just trying to give you concrete advice" kind of way. Don't post a picture if you don't want concrete advice. And listen, I get it. You want to help people, you want to be supportive, maybe you have a vision. Maybe you have a vision on how somebody could improve their court, but there is definitely a line to be crossed here from giving concrete, like, hey, maybe a different color for your blouse. And hey, maybe you should wear a wig because your hair is fucking ugly. Like, there is definitely a distinctive difference here. Now, on TikTok, I see these different categories and this kind of sentiment almost returning, where people of colors, content creators, they're being told in their comment section, like, incredibly disgusting shit, ranging from your skin color doesn't match the aesthetic, or something like braids don't belong, and I'm just here to ask you, what the fuck is wrong with you? And it's the same thing with rampant fat phobia in the community, where people who are anything other than skinny as fuck are being told that, hey, this fashion is not for you, actually. You don't match the aesthetic. What? Like, what's wrong with you? You never know somebody's medical history, and you never know whether somebody's actually healthy or not. And honestly, sizing in Lolita fashion can be incredibly frustrating. People are not Itas just because they're making a dress fit them, and they're not Itas because they are simply a different ethnicity. There was a lot of casual racism going on. Now, I know that I am just a white person talking about this shit as if it affects me. It does not. I have never had to experience what terrible racism was going on in this community, but I still think me having a platform is important to call that out, that used to be a thing, and unfortunately still, at times, is a thing. So when I was just getting started in 2015 and I attended my first meetups, I was met with two sides of Lolitas. And now there's probably more in-betweens as well, but I think it's kind of easier to understand it this way. There was one category of Lolitas that were the elitists, the one that were only angelic pretty, that had like from head to toe brand and were doing all the rules right, and were basically seen as the god tiers of Lolita fashion, but also we're very, very, very famously the mean girls, and we're very famously giving you the side eye, which I have experienced myself. I'll get into that in a second. And the other side was the more casual Lolita enjoyers who believed that everyone had a place there, and were very chill about it, and chill with bodyline, and, were very helpful and giving resources. So one time I was at a convention, and a lot of people who have followed me for a while know this story, but I was at a convention, and I unknowingly wore a replica that was sold to my parents, basically pretending it was a real piece. Literally 11 or 12 years old, so very young, and three lovely women approached me and basically gave me the biggest side eye. It wasn't even a side eye, it was like a straight up and down, like, kind of look. Very rude in an almost insulting kind of way, in telling me that my dress is a replica and that I should be embarrassed to wear it out in a convention center, while I was literally 12 or 11 with my mother. Like, bro, be so for real. Now, do I support replicas? No, of course not. But there's no need to be mean or rude or insulting about it to a literal child or anyone. Doesn't matter how old you are, because it's just a weird thing to do. Fortunately, I have also witnessed a couple of my mutuals from my local community being posted on LiveJournal and Ruffle Chat and being made fun of by so many Lolitas from other communities simply because of the way they look. And that is horrendous. Some people saying that the word ITA and the rules and everything is entirely stupid and everyone should just be doing whatever they want to do. And then I see people who are like, actually, no, these rules are important and ITAs are like a part of the community. Like, we have to call them out. Just, you know, it's an educational thing. Stand both sides and where they're coming from. And I think we need to find a common ground here. And I know this is not very satisfying, but hear me out. Calling random people on the internet ITAs, it is just a shady thing to do, because I've seen people call people ITAs who are showing off their first handmade dress because it's the only thing they were able to do. And it's like, that is not ITA. That is somebody trying to get into the fashion and expressing themselves and doing something incredibly creative. I have never made my own dress. That is great. That's incredible. Yes, it might not be the perfect dress ever or the best dress I've ever seen, but it's a start. There's no reason to call that an ITA. Like, again, I understand that some dresses are literally too short to be Lolita fashion. But on the other hand, it is different, an entirely different thing if somebody's just a tall person and because they have long legs, the dress is a little shorter on them. There's no crime committed here. It becomes an issue when rules are not followed, when it's no longer recognizable as Lolita. Because I do believe that Lolita fashion has a look, no matter what silhouette we're talking about. Lolita fashion is distinct and distinguishable from other J fashion styles. That is what makes us Lolita. And I do think that something like a petticoat is kind of a staple look. Do I believe that when the summer heat is 40 degrees Celsius and you're sweating up a storm that you have to wear a blouse and a petticoat and not show your knees? No, that is dumb as hell and bullshit, and we all have to understand and also should agree upon that people should not have to suffer just to follow the rule. How can you avoid being an ITA? This is really not the easiest answer because everyone has a different definition still of what an ITA actually is. But I can guarantee you that most people these days, at least in the community, are not going to call you an ITA for being a beginner. In my personal experience, from what I've seen around the online community and also the in-person community, people kind of just mind their business now and are not that rude anymore. Thank God. So maybe you can follow at least sort of a guideline that I can provide you here. Wearing a petticoat to get that bell shape. That is probably the most staple piece of Lolita fashion. You don't want to buy a replica. Replicas are really not it, and those are basically fakes of the original pieces. And how can you avoid that? You can go to a really, really lovely site called Law Library and double check, triple check, quadruple check if the piece you're buying is legit. Always check for the label, always check for the right colorway, and also always check for the prints themselves if they are really accurate. And then just buy your piece and have fun with it. Another thing that I can also kind of recommend to you, maybe invest in a cute little headpiece, cute little hair clip, maybe get some cute little socks that match. Honestly, a wardrobe is built over time and so is your cord. And I think as long as you got the petticoat down and you got not a replica, you're gonna be fine. And honestly, being an ITA, these days, I don't even know what it means anymore, because you can call me an ITA for wearing heavy makeup and often unnatural hair colors and, all these things. I have definitely been an ITA many times in my life, and that's okay. Don't worry, don't stress. The Lolita community welcomes you with open arms. And if you have any questions about how to do certain things, always let me know. I'm always down to record some videos for you. So yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Definitely subscribe and let me know what other videos you would like to see. I'm also streaming on Twitch 3 times a week, so if you want to join me there, I'm there Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays for the most part. And yeah, I have TikTok, Instagram, all this beautiful stuff, and we'll see each other in the next one. Bye-bye!